Welcome to the MAP, Real Life, Real Insights. I'm your host, Woodrow Thompson, and I have a very special guest. You're not just a guest, you're my friend.
Thank you.
And it's so good to have Bishop Tim McCaleb with us. Bishop Tim McCaleb is our General Presbyter for Asia, Australia, and Oceania. Take me back to 2010 when we had that earthquake in Haiti. And I was privileged to serve alongside you as we rebuilt that orphanage. Remember that?
I do.
That was great. Now, that's something that you've been doing throughout your life by way of construction, building. Was that before ministry? How did that evolve?
Well, I just started out. That's where my talents lay.
Okay.
I wanted to be I was a carpenter. Grew up working on the farm, barns. Daddy was a carpenter.
Your dad was a carpenter?
Yes,
Okay.
he was. And
Didn't know that.
so I just thought I wanted to be a contractor. And so going back to 2010, let's step back one month to December of 2009. And I told
Right.
my wife, had been telling her that I was burned out of pastoral ministry. I was gone,
Right.
and I had to step out and take a sabbatical. And she was worried, and finally come to the point and said, the only reason I want us to stay is money, and that's
Right.
not a proper
Okay.
reason. And so she consented. I went in to see my state bishop,
Right.
E.C. McKinley.
Remember EC?
And I told him that I was going to not be taking an appointment, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I started to cry, and I said, "I don't know, but I can't go on." And in January, the earthquake happened in Haiti.
Yes.
And I just sent an email to Bishop David Bryan and told
Right.
him if I could do anything, I'd be glad to help. And he wrote back, "I don't know what we're going to do, but thank you." In March, I never heard anything. In March, I got up and told my church that I was going to take a sabbatical. I wasn't going to pastor anywhere else. I'd been
Right.
there 11 years. And one of the older men came to me afterwards and said, Brother McCaleb said, we don't want you to go, but while you were talking, I felt like telling you, don't forget missions. And I said, well, Joe, I appreciate that, but I have
Right.
no idea what that means.
Right.
That week, David Bryan, within 3 or 4, called me and said, Tim, we have the largest offering we've ever received, over $500,000. The overseer of Haiti won't take it because he said that it would just get gone. People would swarm him.
Right.
We need somebody to go. Would you do it? And I said, you must have heard I'm taking a sabbatical. He said, no, I hadn't heard that at all. And so I went in to talk to him, and I didn't want to go.
Right.
And the reason I didn't want to go is I was scared to go. I'd been to Haiti before. It's a very desperate place.
It is.
And I stopped down to see a friend, an older lady, and I said, they're wanting me to go to Haiti. She said, but you're taking a sabbatical. And I said, yeah. She said, well, you don't really have an excuse. And I said, I'm afraid. I don't want to go. And she said, well, you just need to take some extra life insurance and go. You'll be all right.
I like that.
So I went back and said to David, would you guys be willing? Because they couldn't give me a salary.
Right.
They gave me a stipend.
Right.
So he said, yeah, we'll buy you life insurance. So they bought life insurance. I went to Haiti. I labored for 2 years, slept on the ground many times.
Yeah.
Chickens and roosters and everything going on around me. Haiti did a greater work in me than I did. And then we did 18 projects. We rebuilt the orphanage. Yes. We connected with an organization in Germany that spent $2 million on our orphanage. It's world class now.
Yeah.
But Haiti did something for me, and I'm still in contact with those guys. I love them.
Very good.
Think a lot about them. And you went with me.
I went with you.
You're
I remember that.
You're the only, if I can say, overseer or bishop, presiding bishop, that went with me.
Right.
On one of those trips. You went and you worked, and you just had some kind of surgery, I remember.
I had surgery. I just completed surgery, but I made a commitment to go to Haiti, so I followed through on that. And that was a learning experience for me as well. I'm from the Caribbean. I'm from Jamaica, so the house and all of that, I'm used to. But boy, taking showers with a pail, reminded me of some things. But the orphanage, they were really appreciative of the work you did. And of course, you led the construction work, was really good. I want to go back to you feeling that you're suffering from burnout. And it's one of the things that we pastors wrestle with, or even overseers, but we're afraid to admit that. One is, what do you think, especially for younger people thinking about ministry, what are some of the things that leads to burnout, you think?
I believe that studies have shown that most pastors feel called to do ministry. They feel called to preach, to do spiritual work, and they end up being administrators and CEO type and all. It kills me.
Right.
You know, I think of the apostles
Right.
when they said, look,
Yep.
you know, we're called for the word and
And
prayer.
prayer, yeah.
And most pastors, I think, feel that way, but our society thrust up on us the CEO model versus the shepherd model.
Right.
I want to be a shepherd.
Right.
I want to, and shepherds have a lot of time. They sit under the trees and they pray and they write psalms like
Right.
David and all. And it creates a depth in them. And when you are called upon for the bear and the lion or the parishioner's
Right.
crisis, you can respond. But you're thrown into this CEO stuff, and I think that causes a lot of the burnout.
So, looking at our young ministers and people who are considering ministry, we need to help them to understand the difference between shepherding or the difference between inspirational ministry and administrative ministry. Remember, at one time we called ourselves administrative bishops.
Right.
We've since removed that title. So you think that's because we're taking on too much administrative things?
I think so.
Okay.
Personally, we need to somehow, at least at the pastoral level, we have oftentimes parishioners that are far more talented
Right.
in the administrative area than we are.
Right.
But we can feel threatened by that, and we need to.
We feel threatened by it.
Yeah, I think so. We want
Okay.
to. We're human beings, and if someone is making decisions about buildings and things like that, that we may feel threatened by that, and somehow or another, we've got to realize that we're a part of this body, and we each have our giftings in the local church, and we need to try to tap into and release those giftings and not feel threatened by them.
Right. So it's also a matter of delegating.
Yes.
Making sure that we're delegating.
Yeah.
And also understand where their gifts and abilities are.
That's right.
And where we have our
Right.
strengths. Now, so moving from pastoral ministry, taking a sabbatical, going to Haiti, now you're the general presbyter of Asia, Australia, Oceania. How did that transition come about?
Well, I had worked in Haiti, and after Haiti, there was some thought of me doing this on a worldwide scope, but that didn't come.
What you did in Haiti?
That's correct.
Okay.
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 So Bishop Brian was talking to me about it, but the money really wasn't there because I couldn't live on a stipend forever.
Of course not.
Some of my children had helped me with finances to be able to do that. During that time, Bishop Clements called and asked me to serve as in Texas as the presiding bishop, and I called David and I called Bishop Howard at the time and told them, you know, this has been offered, but do you still want me to do this worldwide? And they both said no. If you've got this opportunity, go on to Texas because we don't know if this will last even for a year. We don't know if we have the money or not to do it. So I felt like going to Texas. I went there, but during that time, towards the end, there was a great earthquake in Nepal.
Yeah.
And I told Bishop Browder, the presbyter there, that I would was available if I could help in any way. Several months later, he called and said, "I'm going to Nepal. Go with me." And so I went at my own expense, and I went to Nepal with him. And on the way home, standing in the hotel room, the Lord spoke to me and said, "I'm moving you to this area." And just came out of the blue.
Right.
Went home, told my wife. She didn't think too much of the Lord speaking to me. She said, "That's crazy," was her words to me. "That's crazy. Why would he do something like that?" And all that.
I don't know.
So that was January and March or April. I went to Cleveland I was on the BDP committee. It was what we call Vision Week.
Right.
And after we had met with the general presbyters, Bishop Clements was going to lunch, said, "Can I ride with you?" And I knew immediately why he wanted to ride with me. And he said, "We only have one nomination for a presbyter. We need two. Your names come up. Would you be willing for us to put your name in the hat?" And I said, "Yeah, how could I say no?" I mean, God had already told me. And the rest is history.
So for those watching or listening to us, what's the role of a general presbyter?
The general presbyter has oversight of several nations or larger areas.
Right.
And what I do is I try to come along and assist the national bishop to do pastoral training,
Right.
to help them with difficulties they have, and to serve them. I don't see myself in any form or fashion as their supervisor, even though they were introduced me as such.
Right.
I try to be a true servant to them, and so I really have focused on discipling and growing pastors with them.
Now, when you heard the voice of the Lord that's telling you going to move you to that region, your wife's response was, "That's crazy." How has that been for her? What has that adjustment been like?
Oh, they love Sheena.
Oh, wow.
She enjoys it, and she goes with me. And I will say that my children contribute the finances to enable her to travel with me.
Okay.
So it doesn't come out of my budget, a church budget or anything. And so I do like for people to know that.
Right.
That she's provided for it. And then we of course we stay in the same room.
Right.
And we often share a meal. But she has been a real trooper, and I use her a lot to teach. And one of the things is, in Asia, women are pushed down a lot. And so by our interaction with one another and the way I treat her and the way I let her speak and all, I hope that by example I'm teaching these guys as well the value of our sisters.
So modeling it for them.
That's right.
Now, most of your life you were in the U.S.
That's correct.
So this is new, traveling around the world. What are some of the challenges you face? You're going to different countries, the cultures are different, the traveling experience is different, the hotels may be different, transportation may be different. What are some of the challenges you face?
Well,
moving around
the biggest challenge is fatigue. Wow. With the long, it often takes 25 to 40 hours perhaps to get to a place.
Wow.
From here. I love the various cultures and food and language and all that. I really enjoy all those things.
Very good.
So the challenges are mostly fatigue, and we have some language problem, but not much. So many Asians speak English. Because there are so many languages in Asia that English is becoming the common language that they speak among themselves.
Okay, got it. Now, I'm a firm believer that God wastes nothing. So I listened to you tell your story of growing up on a farm, dad being a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back at your life now, even from those formative years, can you see the hand of God in whether it's carpentry, whether it's growing up on a farm, all of that stuff, to where you've come full circle and now you look back,
Mm-hmm.
you see that even from the early beginnings,
Mm-hmm.
God was at work without you even knowing. Have you
It's interesting
ever?
that you said that. That God wastes nothing. I tell my kids
Yeah.
that, look, I don't know how it will happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it will come full circle. No matter what you have learned, whatever what you
Right.
do growing up, and all, God will use that. He'll
Yeah.
bring it. He'll redeem it. He'll
Right.
use it.
Yeah.
Of course, He's used the carpentry work and such. Perhaps too, growing up in a home with no air conditioning and drinking from a spring or a well. Our
Right.
water came
Right.
from spring or well, and I would sleep on the floor of our front porch. It'd get so
Wow.
hot at times
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
summertime that when I go back up in the mountains or on the islands
Right.
of the Philippines or the mountains of Nepal or somewhere like that, it seems to it seems to be an adventure, and it seems not to be a stressor for me. I enjoy it, and I think a lot of that was learned as a kid growing up.
Yeah. I've always thought it's just amazing how God,
Mm-hmm.
from the formative years, He
Right.
started those things that
That's right.
eventually become part of our lives. We've been talking about unity, whether it's unity, united in
Mm-hmm.
mission, which is the theme for the Mid-Atlantic region, and we've wrestled with this word unity.
Mm-hmm.
On the presbyter's level,
Mm-hmm.
where you have multiple nations, languages, stories are being told, how do you see unity coming together in those areas that you serve?
Okay. So unity, to me, does not mean unity of culture
Right,
or dress
right,
or whatever. I try to distinguish uh, culture from good, sound biblical doctrine.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the Bible always trumps culture.
Correct.
So if someone is
Mm-hmm.
mistreating a wife or
Mm-hmm.
not recognizing ladies in ministry
Right.
and all, and they say to me, well, that's our culture. I say, wait a minute. I don't care what your
We
culture
have
is.
no such culture.
The Bible trumps that.
Correct.
So unity, that I think what really brings unity is love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not me trying to um, copycat and
Mm-hmm.
act like them.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm there, I'm Tim McCaleb.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am, and I try to be myself. Uh, but unity, I think, comes from an embracing of a common work or vision that we're all
Right.
Christians and we're all striving toward that mission that He has given us,
Right.
and we do it in different ways.
Right.
And the different ways doesn't conflict with unity.
Very good. Now, in serving the different nations and different
Mm-hmm.
cultures, what surprised you most about the different cultures and nations, their approach to unity? Is there different approaches that they'll utilize towards unity,
Mm-hmm.
or is it common among the nations? It just flows naturally.
Yeah. So let's go to one of our nations. Most of the people that I minister to are homogenous in their
Right.
area.
Right.
They don't have the money,
Mm-hmm.
the influence, or the time to be able to travel like I travel.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so they're usually in a tribe or a group, an island or a village, and I don't know that it even crosses their mind. They think of themselves in this group. Uh, when I come, when I come, um, oftentimes I sense within them that maybe they feel a little bit less than me.
Okay. Right.
And I say, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're my hero.
Right.
And I mean that.
Right.
And I was in Nepal. I went way back in these mountains, several hours in truck. And when I got there, now we're sleeping on plywood. They'd laid
Right.
out blankets, and their toilet is a hole in the ground and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the pastor had told us later. He brought us warm buffalo milk. They just milked the
Right.
buffalo,
Wow.
and it was tasted pretty good,
Right.
except for the smell. And he said, I was so nervous about you coming until I saw your smile,
Right.
you know. And I told him, I said, listen, I would rather be here, and I meant it, Woodrow.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I would rather be here with you than the finest hotel in this world.
Wow.
You know,
That's
I'd
amazing.
rather be there sleeping on the plywood, taking the bath. I don't guess I took a bath actually when I was in the mountains
Right.
because there's,
Right.
you know, it's
For
cold.
sure. Yeah.
And I'd rather be there than the finest hotel in the world. And I never feel better. And that pastor, we had helped him with chickens,
Mm-hmm.
and had bought like give $300 to $500 and started a chicken farm for
Right.
him.
Mm-hmm.
He had used that money. You cannot believe that they had little business. They added a room onto their house. They started a little store. They bought a sewing machine, and the wife was sewing, because I'm trying to help some of these pastors become
Right.
self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I'm wondering, not answering your question directly, you know, about unity, but there's a unity of the
Yes.
Spirit.
For sure.
There's a
Yes.
unity of
Mm-hmm.
the Spirit that transcends the physical, the
Right. Mm-hmm.
possessions, and all of
Yeah.
that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm aiming for.
Right. Right. Now, when in the Western world, just looking at things the way we do, what are you most appreciative of when you travel these different countries? You see what they're wrestling with, their meager, you know, whether it's housing, land, or whatever. Some of them may be poverty stricken. When you come back to the Western world, when you come back to the U.S., what are you most appreciative of after being in that area, watching them struggle?
Yeah.
And then you come back to the U.S.
Yeah.
What are you most appreciative
Conveniences.
of? Conveniences. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a gallon of milk, you don't milk the buffalo. You know? And
You don't have to make the buffalo.
and good rules and good
Right.
laws about
Right.
traffic.
Right.
You know, you take that for granted, that you stop when the light turns red. That lets the other people
Right.
go.
Right.
Some of these places, they haven't learned that yet. You know, it's just
Right.
meaningless
Right.
almost, and it's just, and so those conveniences, if you need this or that, you can readily get it in the United States normally.
Right. And the other thing that comes to mind, how about the spirituality? So when you look at spirituality in those nations, look at spirituality in the Western world, what's the difference? What's that like?
Well, you know, the psalmist said in one of the psalms, he said, "By your favor,
Right.
you made my mountain stand strong.
Mm-hmm.
I cried out to you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you heard and you
Right.
answered." So the mountain, I think, is an obstacle, and he said, "By your favor, what I was going through caused me to cry out to you." So the convenience is can somewhat be our curse as well, because they cry out to God
Right. Right.
because of the mountains they have.
Right.
They can't run and get an Alka-Seltzer at the
It's
corner
true.
because
Yeah.
there is none.
There's none. Yeah.
You know, they cry out to God for the simple things, the common things, for shoes for their children, perhaps, or to be able to have some sugar, or just little things like that. They cry out to God, and in that crying out to God, God provides in a variety of ways.
Right.
And it's unbelievable. I think that draws them closer to the Lord.
So you sense that they have a deeper appreciation uh, for their relationship with God, just the idea of faith in God, being more dependent on God. While in the Western world, as you said, we can just run to the pharmacy and we can pick something up.
As God is their provider,
Wow.
they have a much more dependence and appreciation for that.
Right. Very good. What are some of the key cultural tensions you've had to navigate between oversight of these different nations?
Mm-hmm.
Cultural tensions.
I think that I've mentioned the women.
Right.
For example, we were teaching in India, and I had carried them all a book, great book that I had acquired about ministry development and all, and they were passing out the books, and my wife noticed that there were some lady pastors, and they didn't give them one, and so we stopped the whole thing.
Hmm.
We stopped the whole thing, had those ladies stand up,
Right.
and we talked about them and talked about our appreciation for their labor, and we told the guy, give them a book, and so in children, sometimes children are so abundant
Right.
that there's maybe a lack of appreciation for children. I'm talking about in the
Right.
culture at
Yeah,
large,
for
not
sure.
just the
Yeah.
local church. I have 7 or 8 orphanages under my care. I have more orphanages
Oh,
in
really?
my area than the entire Church of God
I
Prophecy.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
we've got orphanages in 11 nations. I have 5 of those nations,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so you see an unappreciation in the culture at large. Some of my nations are heavily Muslim. It's amazing in Indonesia. There is a mosque on every corner, like there's a church on every corner in the
Wow.
South,
Wow.
in Cleveland, and you are waken up by the imam,
Mm-hmm.
calling people
Right. To
before
prayer.
daylight to
Yeah.
prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of cultural differences in things.
How do you maneuver your way with the different religious beliefs as a Christian? And what are their reactions to you as a Christian?
There are most of the time they have been very respectful,
Okay. Okay.
and I try to be respectful as well
Right.
of them. My undergraduate studies, my bachelor's, was in world religions.
Okay.
There are some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
We all use a book.
Yeah.
We
Mm-hmm.
all had a founder, a
Yeah.
charismatic
Mm-hmm.
leader. There's rules and things like that. So I tried to be. For example, I was invited into a hut of a village where the chief was a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 wives, and he had adorned his. He was so proud of all these he had used to plaster on his wall. The
Wow.
packages,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and all. And so I went in and talked with him, spent some time, and I prayed for him before I left.
Very
He was
good.
able to let me pray. Now, the reason I was there was one of our pastoral couples had started going to this village that was primarily Muslim, and they were, you're not welcome here, and they would push them away. But they started going and taking things for the children, needs and supplies, and they began to open up.
Very good.
And we had a thriving little work of ministering to those children in this Muslim village,
Wonderful.
and just by loving them.
Very good. Very good. Some years ago, when I studied world religion, what was revolutionary for me is coming to understand that there's truth in every religion. And so you go to Acts in Athens, talking about the unknown God.
That's right. Paul
And
started where they were
Paul
at.
started where they were at. He
Yeah.
said, I perceive that you're religious. And so it was revolutionary for me to think that, just like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying with the Muslim, that there's some similarities, and so every religion has some truth.
Right.
And if we can pick up like Paul did, we can actually share the gospel with people
Mm-hmm.
from different faith or different areas. What, how does humility play a part in the nations you oversee? It must be a humbling experience to travel to these different nations, learning the culture, learning how people are. And what role does humility play in traveling and meeting different people, dealing with different cultures? What does that look like for you?
Well, for me, you see people who have a superiority feeling. They don't seem to, and I'm not talking about them. I'm talking
Right,
about Americans
right,
or
right.
Westerners.
Yeah,
Sometimes they can approach them with this attitude of superiority. And the guys that I minister to are mostly poor.
right,
I mean, they're
right,
not
right.
and all, and so they will
Almost want to bow down to you.
bow down
And
to
yeah,
that
right,
and all. And so for me, I don't want that.
right,
I want to, and I tell them, I say, look, I am not up here and you're
right,
down here.
right, right.
And so to me, I'm trying my best to teach them to stand tall in the
Right.
Lord.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, humility, in my opinion, humility is not thinking badly of
Right.
yourself.
Right.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, to me, humility is being obedient.
Right.
Let me explain that.
Mm-hmm.
God says, humble yourselves. And I've
Yes.
often thought about that. What do you mean by humble yourselves? And I came to realize that when I try to do things my own way,
Right.
I'm exalting myself.
Of course. Yeah.
But when he tells me to do
Mm-hmm.
something and I submit to what he's telling me to do, that's humbling yourself.
Right.
A child that obeys a parent is humbling.
Right.
A child that rebels is exalting themselves. I know
Right.
better. I'll
Right.
do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I go, I try to teach them that we all must be obedient to our Father, and that we all must have humility in that way.
That's amazing because, in a Western world, we view as a general presbyter.
Mm-hmm.
So, the title
Mm-hmm.
seems like an elevated position. So I
Mm-hmm.
can see when you travel different parts of the world, let's say the general presbyter is here,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing, I love to tell people, it's not you serving me, I'm here to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the title. So that's really good to hear that, you come from a posture that says, I'm here to serve you, not the other way around.
And I hope that's not just words.
Yes.
I don't want it to be just words. I want it to be reality. And when I was starting out in ministry,
Hmm.
I heard an old man say, "You can go out and argue about which star is the brightest, but when the sun comes up, it doesn't matter."
That's correct.
And because he's the light of
Yeah.
heaven.
Yeah.
And when I go to heaven, I'm not going to offer him my business card and say, "Look, who I am." And so I think about people in the Bible like Ruth
Right.
and Naomi and the little
Hmm.
widow. There's a lot of those people around this world, and I'm sure that when the rewards come, uh, they will be they will be astounded, and we will be of how they will be honored.
Very good. Very good. Do you miss working with your hands and doing some more of that carpenter work? Do you miss that? You
I
ever?
do somewhat,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm usually done some little project at home, working in a closet or something, but I also use it overseas in Asia in the orphanages and things by way of suggestions
Right. Right.
and showing them things that they can do because sometimes when you don't have resources and such, you may not be thinking about things that you could do to make this situation better, or how you can improve this building. And so I tried to, in consulting ways, I still use it with them.
Very good, very good. Well, Bishop Tim McCaleb, it's been a pleasure having you on the map. And for our viewing and listening audience, we want to challenge you. One of the things I want to leave with you, as we mentioned before, that God wastes nothing. And so we pray that you'll continue to seek Him. I'd like to encourage you to keep navigating your life with purpose. God bless you. We'll see you next time.